Matrix. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thanks for turning on your cameras, you guys. I appreciate that.
Please do.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you are in a position at all where you can turn on your cameras and be interactive, I think that's one of the joys of masterminding, is that you get to talk to others and, oh, thank you, welcome, welcome. You get to talk to people and see their faces and kind of interact with great ideas and understand where people are coming from. So my name is Diana Gabler. I am the team lead out in Keller Williams Lake Country. I am thrilled to introduce Kathy Popovich today for our mastermind. You guys, you get to hang out with one of my most favorite people in the world. She's fabulous. I know. How many of you guys have been on masterminds before? Yep. Okay, awesome. So you guys have met Kathy. You know how fabulous she is. And she is one of her gifts. I see her shaking her head, so I'm just going to keep talking. One of the things I think Kathy is really, really good at is facilitating conversation around important topics. And I don't know of a more important role than the support roles that our administrative people play in the businesses of the agents and the lives of the clients that they affect. So thank you all for your operational genius and the way you support your teams. And Kathy, thank you for leading this session for us. I'm going to hand it over to you and get us going here.
Okay. Well, after that, I should just maybe hang up because there's no way.
No.
No, I mean, I do think that we, like one of my own life mottos and like kind of one of the mottos of our team is just, we love to learn, we love to collaborate and share. And obviously it also falls in line with the whole Keller Williams model as well of, leaning into each other, leverage, learning from each other, not reinventing the wheel, looking at best practices that other people are doing and seeing if that can be applied to your business or not. So I do love the mastermind format versus, just someone talking at someone and sharing just what they're doing, because, I think even the way we show up every month, I mean, all of our teams are a little bit different. We have a little bit different of a makeup or a DNA and those kinds of things, but it doesn't mean that, a smaller team like ours can't learn from a big team and vice versa. And, we're serving different market centers, but I think that there are some common foundational pieces that help to run smooth business operations, or as smooth as they can be. I think they're always, we're always growing, learning, and changing. And, one of the things that I think a lot about, even over this past year and going into 2022, is just that mindset of progress over perfection. Whenever I feel like I'm hitting my head against the wall and spending way too much time doing any one thing, I'm like, okay, just progress over perfection, progress over perfection. Don't pull the trigger. And I'm actually doing that. And I'm curious if anyone has done this or not. I know it's been around for a few years and I know other people have talked about it, but I started doing the Atomic Habits book. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious if anyone else has done that yet and what your thoughts were on it. Because I have just started it in January and trying to create some new habits.
Anybody? Kathy, it's on my list. How far in are you?
I'm almost done. And honestly, I've made it a priority, if you will, to start my day with it. So I read a chapter a day and I literally can get through a chapter in like 15 minutes. Okay. It's so well written. And I can't remember the name of the author, but the guy who wrote it actually, sometimes you do those self-help books and they're so redundant. I feel like there's conflicting information from one chapter to the next, and it's just really hard to get through. He is a writer first and foremost. And I always love, my background is in marketing and sales and public relations. So I always love good writers. And even in that category of self-help books, he's not redundant. He does summaries at the end of every chapter, makes everything very actionable and understandable, and uses great examples. So of all the books that I've read in the recent past, I would say that I would 100% recommend this book. And I've even sent it to people that I know. So my niece, I sent it to my brother-in-law, people that I know were looking to maybe change some habits. I've got some bad habits that I need to stop, and I want to create some good habits. And so a lot of what they talk about is really interesting and actionable. So I'm trying very hard to make that a priority. So I do recommend it.
Did I see Sarah? Did you raise your hand? Have you read that one too?
I can't see Sarah.
Sarah, you're muted, Sarah, honey. One more time.
Yes, it's also on my list. It's sitting on my bedside table, and I have to create the habit to read.
Right.
Creating habits.
Well, and what's so interesting about it is, and you'll see very quickly, it's about micro habits. So it's not about, a lot of times we talk about like, what is our goal? Our goal is to run a marathon or to lose weight, those kinds of things. And so with the end in mind, then you're like, well, then you have to create a habit around that. And actually habits are very just process oriented. So it's like creating a process for reaching a goal. And a lot of it starts with, he calls them like micro habits. So you start with something very, very small, and it's about repetition over time so that it eventually becomes something that you're not thinking about. So if every morning you get up at a certain time and you want to do, you want to do your devotional, or you want to read a book or whatever it is, or do your meditations, you do them like in small increments. So it's like 1 minute, so that you feel success, and then you keep doing that over time. So it's not about how long does it take to form a habit. It's like, how many times do you have to do the same thing at the same time in order to have the habit be not something that's in your conscious mind. So I have found it to be super fascinating and very actionable. So maybe next time we meet, we can talk about if anyone got started, and we can even talk about that book. So
that'd be awesome.
And I just heard a similar, it makes sense. It might, who knows, it might be in his book, but like habit stacking. So for instance, if you're doing some sort of like self-care or something, you do one, if you always brush your teeth, obviously at the same time or the same point in your process, tack on something immediately next to that so that it becomes just the next thing you do. It's easier to integrate into a habit stack.
Correct. And that is a whole chapter is about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's so good. It really is. I mean, one of the other things that he talks about is, you want to make your good habits very visible and bad habits hard. So like what you just said. So if every morning you want to have a meditation practice or whatever it is, you put your book or whatever it is, or your tape, or you put it right where next to your whatever workout clothes, or and so you have it right there. So if you're brushing your teeth and then the next thing you do is meditate, you have everything all kind of lined up so that it's easy to take that next iterative step. And I feel like it's very, when he said this is very process oriented, it's about systems and processes. I was like, yeah, it is. So
probably why it appeals to us admin.
Exactly. So,
and I'm sorry, I didn't write the name of that book down. Would you mind saying it one more time?
Sure. It's called Atomic Habits.
Thank you.
And it's been around for a couple of years at least, but it's the first time I picked it up, and I recommend it. So, okay. So I'm not sure how many people were on our call back in October. But I think
yeah.
I looked at I had the date on my little PowerPoint here, and it was October 21st. And I was like, okay, yeah, it's been a while. And I think I was pretty aggressive at trying to get through as much as I thought we could get through. And we didn't get through we got through about half of it. So Kathleen had said, do you mind coming back on again and maybe finish out like there were like 3 topics that we hadn't really gotten to. I don't even think that we got fully into all the other ones, but it was my first attempt at that. So I'm like, let's start with these 3 topics at the end. And I actually added in another topic that wasn't on our original list, which was on contract to close, because I know a lot of us probably, whether we're doing that in-house or we are having that done by someone else, I thought we could benefit from having a conversation around what you guys are doing, what's working, that kind of thing. So I'm just gonna rifle through. And I don't know, there was like a worksheet from when we met last time, but I mean, everything that we would need from a topical or talking points perspective is on our slides, and so you can just take notes that way. Okay, so what we talked about, one of the topics that we wanted to talk about was kind of agent business building activities and their growth, and talking through like the way that we were trying to handle each one of these topics is talk about like, what is your current system, what's working, what's not working, and any ideas that we have during this time frame to implement. So with the business building activity, we're talking about things that are related to, lead generation and the individual agents growing their business. And so just some ideas to spur us on is like, do you guys use 411s? Do you have weekly one-on-one huddles? I mean, what are you doing with the individual agents to help them kind of stay on track with their business goals?
I can speak to this. So we do one-on-ones. We used to do 411s, and we would state them at our weekly team meeting. However, because of time and the sheer size of our team, we stopped doing that. And something that, I mean, if anyone would like to speak to this, I think that we struggle with a little bit is our agents have extremely lofty goals. And they get lost in the shiny objects kind of. And I think that they like to kind of hide behind a phone and Instagram and, social media stuff, which is a great thing. But like, at the same time, after doing a little bit of digging, we're finding that they're not getting done, like they're not getting the basics done, like their monthly sphere list, lead generation 2 hours a day, but then also lead follow-up, like making sure that they know the difference of that. And so we're kind of struggling with a little bit like how we can motivate them to do that stuff, how we can make sure that they know what the basics are and do those basics before they do all of the extras. And then I'm curious if any of you guys do, and we currently don't, but like, what are the penalties for not doing that stuff? Our team really, we try to ride a fine line between motivation and encouragement and reward versus, if you don't do this, what happens? And we don't really have any like penalties. So I don't know if that needs to be a discussion too. If anyone wants to speak to any of those topics that I just threw out there.
Yeah. Well, and I can say for us, we do, for each one of the agents, I sit with them and we do like a weekly huddle. No, actually, I'm not weekly. In 2021, we tried to make it weekly, and then it was too much. So now what we're doing is just 2 times a month. They pick the time and it's on our shared calendar, and we have a phone call conversation. And it's usually, we try to be pretty efficient. It's like, okay, I just need you to commit 30 minutes to me, and the goal is, I call myself, even though I'm business operations too. And I call myself, I go, it's a coaching call. I said,
Yep.
So you think about, that some people pay for external coaches to help them grow their business. I'm like, it's a huddle. Like, we're having a huddle/coaching call, and their goals are, we work together to set up their goals. And we do try to make some of the goals that are not just production or volume based. We have goals that are, some of them like profit sharing, lead generation, lead follow-up. And then we have, like things that you're doing in your sphere, and then education and training. And we have just like 2 or 3, like, I'll say like tasks under each one of those areas that they tell me is how they want to grow their business. So, one of our agents, Katie Thomas, is like, she's an amazing note writer. Like every time she goes anywhere, she comes back and she writes a note. I could never get another agent to be the note writer. So we do try to get them to identify for themselves, what do you want to do to help grow your business? Because if I'm going to try to overlay something on one person that is just not a natural fit, then it becomes painful and it becomes something that they just don't want to do, versus saying, what is your strength? Like, what is going to be your go-to thing that you're going to do? Are you going to be whatever? Is it going to be door knocking? Is it going to be open houses? Is it going to be note writing? Is it going to be texting? Is it going to be making phone calls? Is it going to be, having coffees? I mean, not that they don't all do some portions of those things, but what is going to be your like mark? Like, what are you going to say is the one thing that you're going to stand on if everything else were to take a second seat? So that has been helpful, I think, for us. And just and again, we're there. It's not just performance based or volume based. It's like these other goals. So the training and education too. So it doesn't feel like every time they look at that sheet, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't do this or that. And then I also try to say, when we meet, this is how I feel. You're on a team and you're in business, but you're in a career, right? If you're on our team, you're in a career, a real estate career. If you're in a real estate career, you should want to grow your business. I'm not going to lead. I'm not going to pull you into anything. You have got to be the one who wants to drive. And I'm just coming alongside you to help you achieve the goals that you have set for yourself. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's otherwise, I'm like, if this is a partnership and like I said, it's a coaching call, it's like an accountability call, but it's like, okay, well, why wasn't that working? What happened last month? Or in the last 2 weeks? Why don't you think you got to that? Is there something I can do differently? Is there something I can take off your plate to help you get back on track with that? So it really is, from that perspective, the motivation and making those adjustments. But we also do have some accountability. So if our agents aren't consistently doing what they're supposed to be doing, we take them off of any lead sharing that comes from the team.
Yeah, we have talked about that as well.
Yep.
Yeah,
and you don't have to have that hard conversation. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. What were you saying?
No, go ahead. No, I was like, it's sometimes it's hard because, and it's like everyone, we're all in the same place. It's like, oh my gosh, well, this is, there's a lot of reasons why not. They may, it's not like they're intentionally not doing things perhaps, but there still has to be a level of correction, right? So it's like, we've agreed to this. You've set this. I didn't tell you. You told me what you wanted to do. And now I'm just holding you, I'm coaching you, trying to help you to achieve those things or get those things done on a weekly basis. And even whatever those numbers are, like if it's like 5 phone calls, I don't even care. Just tell me what the number is, just let's see what that delivers. And then it's just that soft correction. It's like, listen, we can get right back on track again, but we just need to start doing those things. And then you can get back into the lead sharing.
Yeah. And I think what I kind of took from what you were saying is we had like a offsite in Lake Geneva where we gave them all their numbers and, we helped them establish a plan for the success that they wanted to reach in 2022. However, the plan fell short of the actual action items, like those atomic habits.
Oh, yeah.
And I think our agents, they have these goals and they're so excited and they want to do 30 deals like in 2022, but then they wake up in the morning and they get in front of their computer and then they're like, okay, my goal is to set 2 appointments a week, but like, how do I do that? And I think maybe a miss on our part is not helping them establish those micro tasks that will help them get to their goals. And I think as admin, like, if we have a goal, like our mind is to go to, okay, what is the process to get to that goal? But like agents don't necessarily think like that. They just like, they see the goal and they'll like flail until they figure it out, but that's not really sustainable or like a necessarily good measurable thing. So thank you for sharing that. I should probably touch base with them and kind of dig a little bit deeper.
Maybe our team should do atomic habits as teams, because honestly, I feel like that would be a huge benefit.
Yeah, I can speak to this a little bit as well, because we, at FRG, all of our agents really contribute at a high level and are reaching their goals every year, but there's no real like activity accountability, which from a admin side is tricky and hard to kind of predict and help them plan their future growth. So we really focus this year on making our GPSs like hyper specific. So it's again, like being true to yourself. Like, what kind of agent are you? What do you feel comfortable? What do you want the legs on your stool to be? Right. So I'm not going to tell you what it should be. You tell me what it is. And then we basically took either their well, they didn't even really have past numbers because they don't track anything, but we really kind of took like standard conversion rates at every step, contacts, appointment set, appointment held, contract signed, contacts through the whole pipeline, like basically took the economic model and drilled down into every strategy to like a minute detail. So like I'm going to host 8 open houses a month, which will create X amount of contacts in my database, which will create X appointments, and I mean like to the number. And so then we also meet every other week. So 1 week out of the month, we're going to go through those and say like, okay, here's what you said you were going to be doing. Where are you at? Maybe you thought this was a leg on your stool, but it's not. So how can we pivot now at this point in the year, based on where your business is right now or what you have in your pipeline? And then also another thing we're doing is, and as far as accountability, this is new for us this year. We're asking them to track very basic stats: appointments set, appointments held, contract sign. So like the admins see all the listings coming in, but we're asking them to track on the buy side. So just minimal, so they can get more smart about their numbers and know actually what activities they need to do. And then the other thing we do on the other week of the month is I'm running reports out of our CRM, and I'm calling it like a database health metrics. So I'm saying, okay, how many people are in your database? How many people do you have 3 pieces of information for? Okay, how many people are on a nurture plan? How many people have you had contact with in the past 30 days? And I just run all of these smart filters that are looking for opportunities in their database, and it creates an action item for them. So then it's like, okay, what's one area you want to focus on until we meet again and talk about your database in a month? And so it's like, oh, I want to tag all my past clients and make sure they all hear from me this month. Great. So then when I meet with them about their database the next month, it's, did you do this? As far as like punishments, it's same with us. If people are not responsive or not engaging in kind of the team activities, it's kind of like the proof is in the pudding. If we're going to give leads to the people that are responsive, that may take notes, that serve our clients at a high level. I think with us, we don't hold them accountable to a certain number of activities today because everybody has such a different technique, but we just really, it's in our team production minimums. We know that if you are going to hit our minimums, that's going to be with associated activities. And if you're not, whatever you need to do to make the deals that you're comfortable with, that fits in your life, that's great. But if you're not, we kind of set our expectations high, knowing that people that operate at a high level are going to be hitting those marks and doing what they need to do.
Yeah. We don't have a production minimum, but that's another conversation too.
It's a conversation for sure. And it doesn't have to be high. It doesn't have to be, it just has to be kind of indicative of the activity.
They need to cap.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It's like at the very least, people, you got to cap. Otherwise, I mean, why would you be on a team if you're not looking to have a high level of production, right? I mean, it's just some of the stuff we think, okay, well, yeah, that makes perfect sense, but anyway, it's kind of funny. I do have a question for you, Sarah, on your database health metrics and your, when you said you're meeting with them and they're tracking those specific activities from the 411, are they doing that like in a shared document with you, or are they keeping that and then they're sharing it with you when you meet with them?
So we are doing that through our CRM.
Okay.
So we use Brivity for our CRM, and they can track appointments, and they have enhanced reporting now that they just rolled out where I can pull reports on appointments set and appointments held. And then coupled with just other internal documents like our leads pipeline or our listing pipeline, I know with whom it's associated. So the information is in a few different places, but I correlate it for them because part of why I have them tracking the appointments is because their engagement with our CRM we're very sphere based. So a lot of things, it's not like 100 leads are coming into the system and that there's a lead pool and everybody's looking for them. We're very sphere based, but so we're trying to encourage a little bit more usage of our CRM. So we're having them track just those minor metrics in the CRM to kind of redirect them and uncover opportunities in the database, even within their sphere. But then I'm responsible for kind of pulling a bit from this report, a bit from this report, and bringing it all together and showing them.
Okay. And are you also requiring them to do the data entry on the CRM then? Or
yes.
'cause I've got agents that are, some that are technology savvy and others that aren't.
Yes. So depending on the agent on our team. So for some of our agents, they get a little extra admin support.
Yeah.
Some are really great about it. Like you said, I'm in contact with a team out of Utah who they're like, probably 3,000 units or something crazy a year. And they don't have their agents putting things in their database. They just use Google Forms, and then an admin enters everybody into their database. So, I mean, people kind of land all over on the spectrum, but basically our internal processes are such that the agent needs to have them in the CRM before we can get going.
Okay. Okay.
The Google Forms thing just gave me the heebie-jeebers.
Oh my God, can you imagine? Yeah, her argument is that they are incredibly particular about their database health and making sure that people aren't adding like a first name and no last name, or that it has incorrect source. They want it to be, they have these required questions on their form, and they have a VA that does the data entry.
Yeah.
And so it's not an issue for them, but oh yeah, that sounds overwhelming to me too.
I got a lot of Google Sheets,
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah. But I'm sure they have like 50 VAs. So they probably have a lot of people.
Holy cats. Yeah. That's a whole nother level of, yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, because just that accountability, it's not, I guess it is kind of accountability, but just, again, it's their business. We're here to support them. We want them to go and do the things that are high value, activities. But then the converse of that is there is some of that, whatever, data entry, or that I'll call it housekeeping, that there has to be there too. Otherwise it's like things don't get input, or we're not tracking it, or it's like sitting on a sheet of paper. It's on a Post-it note, like on their, their dashboard of their car.
Right. Yeah. And our philosophy has always been, we can't as admins, we are an extension of you, and we can't service your clients at a high level if we don't have all the information we need. I mean, it's like, I don't know if you've ever heard this analogy before, but it's basically like when you pass the baton in a relay race, right? So we need to be running in lockstep when you pass the baton, and I can't get off on the right foot with a client if I don't have the basic information I need to hit the ground running when you submit an accepted offer, or when you have a listing coming up. Yeah. And it slows down the whole team. Then it creates more course. It's like, okay, well, I know it might be a pain in the butt to add this person to the CRM, but would you rather answer 5 of my emails back and forth to get the right information in? Like, pick your poison.
Right. Well, and the inefficiency, like to your point, when you're running a team, I mean, it's like, they're only thinking, and not that they're not thinking about other people, they're only thinking about their own business. So they want to get something input, like in an intake. And then it's like, okay, but we have like all these other things that have to come before that. So your churn, your inability to do something, to turn it over properly, creates so much inefficiency that we can't handle other things, because we're churning in this space that really should have been like 15 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. And I think most of our agents appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Does anyone else have any other things that they're doing differently, or where you're having success? Okay, well, we'll move on to the next topic then. And this is what I added in was the contract to close system that you guys, what is your current system? Are you using someone, in-house, or using someone externally? What are the expectations of the agents when they go under contract, whether it's, a new listing or it is an accepted offer? And what is their role and responsibility versus what does the contract to close staff do? And then is your staff full-time or part-time, or is it just designated hours against you know what they're doing, all of that. And I can tell, okay, so I'll tell you, we'll start. I think that we've had some folks like talking about this, you know, when we first started our team, you know, I was hire number one, you know, so Karen, you know, her sister, hire number one, natural extension. I was in, you know, business for 30 years in leadership and other things before I came into her business and started doing the real estate thing. And, you know, as we grew and changed and formed a team, I mean, I did it all. Marketing, contract to close, operations, bookkeeping, I mean, all of it. And then, you know, over time have been trying to, you know, bring on other people and leverage that, you know, using interns for marketing, those kinds of things. And then this past year, you know, we brought on, you know, contract to close person who, you know, she isn't a staff member. She is still, she is an independent contractor. So it's kind of like the way Renee does, you know, Focus Title has with their contract to close service. So we only pay her by the contract. So she has flexibility from that perspective, but, you know, she has a responsibility to the team, and she gets all of our contracts. And we have, you know, for the lack of, I mean, we've had a hard time with command and using it from the team perspective and a contract to close. So we developed this silly little system, you know, 5 years ago that is basically a Google sheet, you know, that has just the basic information on the front page. And we used to we used to have the agents pull some of the data from the contract. They wouldn't have to calculate dates or anything like that, but they would write down like what the contingencies were. So there was no room for interpretation of the contract because obviously they're licensed, and anyway, so they did that, and then we would run everything from there. So we would establish all the dates and deadlines. We would verify everything that is on the contract is correctly on the form, and then we would do all the communications, and they stay as the primary role, but we would come alongside and, you know, manage everything from a communications, coordination, compliance, still are doing most of that work on their behalf. Any negotiations or contract writing, like amendments or anything like that, they were still taken care of. So, and then we have a dates and deadlines calendar, like a Google calendar. It's like a shared calendar that we put all the dates and deadlines on there so they can see anything at any point in time. And that's what we've been doing for 6 years. You know, super simple, nothing too complicated. I've tried to look at systems and other things and just have not been able to find anything that wasn't overly complicated for us anyway. So just curious what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, well, I am the contract to close person for the Fair Hinton group. So I really like that you were like, we just made up our own system, because ours, again, is a Google sheet that we have a template that lists out like all of the main steps of the transaction. And I go through and I calculate all the dates and take all the information from the contract and kind of put it in there. Of course, that starts with a conversation with the agent. We have an intake form for each contract that comes in, so that we're going through all the things that, you know, aren't overly explicit on the contract. So we have all of the soft details like, oh, this listing agent can't use a computer. You're going to need to call every single time. So I have that information. So I'm not sending emails and not getting responses and getting frustrated. And we work through, I call the agents every day to go through their deals so that they're always on top of the dates. Our agents are really good about being on top of their deals because they are still going to be doing things like writing the amendments. I mean, sometimes I'll tee them up and have them ready to go so that when they get the details that they need, they can pop those details in and send it out real quick. But they're still doing that. But I'm there kind of as the support system to make sure that nothing gets missed, and that they have what they need to look fabulous for the clients, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that's great. And so this year we started doing like that whole in the business, on the business. So we do the one-to-one huddles, which are coaching calls. And then we just implemented like a chart basically. So for each of the contracts, and again, it's a Google sheet, but each of the agents gets like an email update of all of their deals and what the status is. So like, you know, and it's everything, what's the contingencies, you know, what the status is of those and if it's been met. And then we also have a compliance section and then like a note section. So anything that we want to have. And so it's like a, you know, snapshot of where we are to date. And then we send that to them in advance and we do a meeting a week and they're 15-minute calls. So it's not every day. They can obviously talk about anything that they need on the deals at any point in time. That's what we're there for. But as far as like doing the snapshot of all their deals, we send it to them in writing in a chart form. And then we get on the phone with them and we actually stack our agents back to back on purpose, like in 15-minute increments to keep us on track. So we're only talking about the deals. We're not talking about anything else. You know, if you want to have a conversation about some, you know, we're going to put a, you know, a pin in that and we're going to talk about that later. We're just talking about where we are in each one of these deals and any next steps that we need to share back and forth with each other. And that's it. So we did just start implementing that. And our agents do like being able to see that because it's in a chart form. And, you know, they're on the road or they're not in front of their computers the way we are all the time. And we think, why they didn't see that email? They're not responding. Well, you know, I'm a licensed agent too. So I know, I mean, it's hard to do both and to be in front. We don't want them in front of their computers all the time. We want them out networking, meeting people, lead generating, all of those other things. So I found now we just got started. So we haven't even finished a full month yet, but so far they've reacted really well to that. And they're keeping the meeting because I'm like, it's 15 minutes once a week. You know, you got a time block for it, you know, and if you have to go to an inspection or something else, then, you know, we need to find another time that same day. 15, you can call me in the car. I don't even care, you know, but we're going to talk through it with you. So that is something new that we're doing. And so far it's working.
I have a question. We do really good with like client communication. You know, with our listings, we talk to them every day for the first 3 weeks. And then, you know, we've got systematic emails that go in there. And then the agents also do a market report once a week. So that's pretty in depth. But for those contract to close, like whether it's a buyer or a seller or even a listing, what are your communication standards for your admin? Because as admin, like we've got a lot of stuff on our plate, and obviously the things that like are quote unquote fires rise to the top, and that's what we deal with first. But then there are those easy clients that maybe get forgotten about a little bit, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they deserve less service. So we're kind of trying to brainstorm on some communication standards to set for our admin, just because we've never have done anything like that before, and what that communication would look like. And then the second part of my question is, I know that Command can send like those automatic emails to the clients with the updates of like what's been done in the transaction and what's like upcoming or next in the transaction. If anyone's using those, I would love to hear about that. Just kind of trying to like systematize this stuff when, you know, there's a long contract to close, it's a new construction, there's not much to say to the people, but we want to engage them. Or, you know, something's on delayed and it sits there for a while, but like, there's not any really like marketing updates we can give them because it's not blasted out to the world yet. Like, you know, we can't like send them the Zillow link and get them all excited. If anyone can speak to any of that, that would be great.
Yeah, I definitely can. It's just once a week. Like every seller or buyer needs to hear from someone on our team once a week.
Mm-hmm.
And to try to take some of that pressure off the admin, like when something's in listings, we alternate that task between the lead agent and the listing coordinator. And it's just really a task kind of in our CRM reminding us, have you touched base with this seller this week? We used it when we were in the office more, we had a whiteboard and everyone got a check if we made sure to connect with them that week. And sometimes, like you said, especially like, well, I know this hasn't happened in a few years, but when our sellers were hanging out there for weeks at a time and there was maybe a showing for a month, it was hard to come up with stuff to talk about. But then it's really like, hey, I'm just calling. I told you you would be hearing from me once a week. No, nothing new to report, but I just wanted you to hear from me.
I love that.
I think is a great, powerful touch too. You know, I think clients appreciate being told what to expect and then following up on what you've told them. So, I mean, obviously, like nowadays things move so much faster and there's so much more to talk about, but we also do a lot of automated correspondence through our CRM. And our CRM actually has like the command thing where you can see the task, but we also have a portal that they can log into and see what's been done if they're curious.
Got it. Yeah. I really like because we have that too, like for our listings, I said you'd be hearing from us because they hear from us every day for the first 3 weeks. Then after that, it's one admin touch a week, one agent touch a week. And the agent touch is it's detailed. There's a lot of value in it. And the admin is just like, hi, just checking in to see if there's anything you need from me. But I almost like I told you I was going to be checking in once a week. Here's my check-in. Please let me know if there are any I almost like that honesty rather than just like tiptoeing around and being like, it's me again. Hey.
Yeah, I know. It's like, I'm trying to come up with something to talk to you. I don't really have anything. I think it's like, it helps cement that trust in the relationship.
Yeah. And reminding them of that expectation and that we're fulfilling it. Because sometimes I think they forget and they're like, why is this person emailing me with literally no content? Like, get out of my email box.
Yeah. Well, and it could be, I mean, like, I think it's interesting to look at it from that perspective too, just to say, you're trying to make a connection with them as well and establish that trust. So obviously over time, you kind of get to know them. You're like, there's nothing new to report about the listing itself, but it's been super cold outside or whatever, or did you go on vacation at all, or how are the dogs? I mean, it could just be fun. I mean, and I think those kinds of things, I mean, to your guys' point, I think that is actually more memorable sometimes than I'm only talking to you because I have something to tell you. That's a transaction. Like when you're in a relationship with someone, you care about them. And so you're getting to know them. And so you're bringing other things into play that are not just about the business. So I think I love that. You guys do that.
A great point.
Yeah. Well, and we're trying, a couple things. One of the things that we wanted to try to implement, and I think it was, I've had it on my docket for probably over a year, but then even when we did that boss ops thing, I don't know how many people did that, but, trying to create these delightful, unexpected delights like throughout the process. And we're, basically want to implement where we're giving, whether it's the admin or the agents have an opportunity to show up kind of in a delightful, unexpected way for the client. So if it's like when the offer is accepted, delivering a bottle of wine, it's like through inspection, sending them like a Starbucks gift card, or sending them the QR code, like just things that are really differential. It's like, oh my gosh, I know that was so stressful. Now we're through, yay, go get a Starbucks on me type thing. So we're trying to implement some of those things, again, as a reason to touch base with them, so you're in that relationship, but also to help them understand that, it's a process and every little step closer to close is a victory, right? Because things can go super sideways sometimes in inspections or appraise, all different kinds of things that can happen. So we haven't done it yet, but that's something that we're trying to implement for 2022. And then we use, the other question I had, which I know we have Brivity. You talked about Brivity. I don't know if we've got anyone else using any other platforms, but we were looking into Folio and we've kind of soft implemented it in the background. I haven't really shared it yet with the agents, but our contract to close team has been using it. And I just was curious if anyone has any experience with that Gmail add-on. No. Okay.
I personally don't, but I've heard of many other TCs using Folio.
Yeah. So,
what's another one? Monday.
Yes.
Or Trello. A lot of people use Trello.
Yeah.
There's one more. I'll try to, if I remember it, I'll put it in the chat. Yeah.
I mean, there's so much stuff out there, like even that, which I'm not using, that Zap, I don't even say it right, Zapier, that thing that causes like, I always like, and obviously like we are, it's like, those are the things that I have to research it, figure it out, and then implement it. I'm like, well, that thing seems really cool. So I don't have to like double enter things. So things would pull from one spreadsheet and push to something else. So if I have like a master list of all of our, sales, like, those kinds of things. And I'm still on the front end of trying to figure all that stuff out, if that would be beneficial to help with efficiencies. And I hate double entry. Like I hate, You know, I hate even going to the doctor's office and, you know, they make me fill out that form. I'm like, don't you already have this information? You know, can I just sign a form that says there's no updates? You know? So anyway, okay. Anyone else have anything they want to add?
I have a quick question. So I work for Fair Hinton too. I'm a listing manager. So we have a lot of listings right now, just going back to the communication thing. We have a lot of listings right now that are coming for like March, April, May. And like I've told the clients like, hi, introduce myself, like sent them, you know, what we have called like seller homework, like questions for them to answer. And then like time has just now gone by where I just don't say anything. Of course, I'm checking in with the agents of like, do you need me to reach out? Is there anything you need me to do on this like weekly? However, I just feel like they say no most of the time because, you know, the listings are, you know, not coming for like a couple months, but I just feel like there's that like lag in communication almost. Are any teams like doing anything to be checking in with these listings that aren't coming for a while?
I wish that ours would be taking a little bit longer to come because like,
Yeah,
I feel like as soon as they're identified, it's like, okay, now we need to be on the market in 5 days. And it's like, we're killing ourselves with the turn, you know,
yeah.
we have like that prep time. So if it's going to be staged or if they're making some improvements, you know, that is even more condensed. And then as soon as we're ready, it's like, okay, data entry, let's, you know, photos are in, and then it's like, within the next day, it's like, we're launching, we're brochure, like everything has to wait until we get like the photos and the descriptions and all that stuff. And then we go into like hyperspeed mode.
I agree with both of you guys. Ours are either it's coming tomorrow, which drives me crazy, or it's coming in 3 months. And there's really no in between. I'm like, how about like 2 weeks, you guys? Like I get a little bit of notice.
That'd be a great timing. Yeah. For like 2 weeks is like perfect, but it's usually right away or way far out. So it's hard to kind of, with the communication, and hard to like gauge when I need to do my tasks, you know?
Yeah. For our further out ones, I also introduce myself at first, at least when we have something in excluded. But usually when we have something in excluded, they're working on painting or staging or something like that. So I kind of let them be, and then I'll come back as it's getting a little bit closer and being like, hey, just check in, like in the next few weeks, the agent will reach out with some homework, like the list of improvements and all that sort of stuff. So I don't reach out every week while we're in the excluded category, just because I think they might get annoyed if I'm reaching out every week for like 6 months straight. They're gonna be like, okay, stop talking to me. So that's my answer to you. But I feel both of you guys where it's either tomorrow or it's 3 months out, and I don't really, there's not a perfect balance between the two.
Yeah, it's a struggle.
Never is. Yeah, I would think the thing that would be most of value would be a market report. Like, here's what we've seen in the past 2 weeks, or maybe it's every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks or something. Here are some trends that we've seen.
Yeah, that's a good. And I was going to say, I mean, on our team, if there's something that's that far out, I mean, if the listing contract so it's known and they know they're going to get it, but it's not signed yet, I mean, that's still in the agent's place. I'm like, I'm not dealing with stuff that's 3 months out. I mean, I might help them. I would support the agent and support anything that they might need from us to help that seller get ready, or, you know, provide things for them or help them, but I'm not owning it yet. It hasn't been turned over to me yet. You know, we might have it tracking it, so we have it on our sheet, you know, so there it is. So we do that a little bit differently because we don't have just a person who's assigned as a listing coordinator. We wait until it's more known and more actionable. You know, it's like, okay, now we can activate. Yeah, like
we have every week during our team calls, our agents will let me know if there's something that's going to be signed that week, or if it's just something in their pipeline. And if it's something in their pipeline, I kind of don't even waste the time worrying about it. Half the time we don't even end up getting that listing, and it goes to another team anyways, which of course is totally fine. But until there's a signed contract, I don't believe them that it actually exists.
Yeah.
Because there's been times where somebody will be like, okay, yeah, we're going live next week. We don't have anything signed. And then all of a sudden it's 6 months later, and I'm harassing the agent every day being like, what's the status on this? And they're like, we will let you know when it's signed. So I like the idea of the market stat report because you're still sort of interacting with them. But even when it comes to our vendors, our agents won't give suggestions on vendors like organizers and stagers until we have at least an excluded listing contract signed. Just because you don't want to give out all your secrets before you have anything signed.
Right, right. Well, and then I was going to say too, there is that, so if you actually, on both sides of that, if you're under contract and it's something that's listed, that, I don't know if you guys know about that showing time report that you can pull. That is, a lot of agents don't know about it. It's surprising to me. I just taught an agent that's been not even on our team about that. I'm like, well, why aren't you, for price reductions or for whether they're showing activities or the number of homes that are on the market, I'm like, yeah, you can run that for that zip code and for that in a price range. And if you want to try to like encourage a price reduction, or if you want to just, it was kind of a quiet period, you can say, okay, but look at in this last 2 weeks, there was like no activity. So it wasn't just your home that people weren't going to look at, it was other homes. So that's something that, I will pull for the agents. And then we get those showing time reports, those like monthly reports for each listing that we forward on. I mean, again, why create something that, it's already there. So we just basically share that with the sellers. I mean, if we're on the market more than 30 days, which anymore it's pretty rare, but we do have a few that linger, and I'm assuming at some point in time we might get back to that. So I think we're all getting out of practice. Actually,
Kim, one thing you could do, I'm thinking in this moment, is if you do have that category of people who are in the pipeline but don't have anything signed and you still want to interact with them, if you guys have any sort of like events or newsletters going out, I would just triple check that they're included in that.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Yeah, just something to like be like engage them about.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Because I think sometimes, unless you're providing value, it just ends up being like a touch point, which is totally fine. We obviously want the touch points, but if it's something of value, like, hey, come to our Valentine's cupcake giveaway or whatever. We're not doing that, but just
Right.
an idea.
Right.
Great
Yeah.
idea.
That's awesome. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to move on to the next. This is awesome. Thank you for participating so much. And we're all better together, right? So, the next thing I had was just training and education. Again, we kind of have, I feel like if you're at Keller Williams, it should be a known goal that, training and education is kind of baked into, who we are as a team, who we are as individual agents. And so for us, again, we have the agents set a goal as to, what training and education they would like to do for the year, if there's anything special that they would want to do. So anything, and it can be anything. It could be through KW Connect. It could be through the individual market centers. It could be through the WRA. It can, we try not to define it for them. We just say, what are your education goals going to be? But we do mandate that, they have to attend, the weekly sales meetings with the market center. They need to do at least a minimum of like 2 training or education sessions, however they want to define that, a month, so that they're constantly, getting better, sharpening their skills. And then, we'd like to have them like share back with the team too, like creating what I'll call like subject matter experts. So we've asked our agents, like, what is your passion? Like someone might be more interested in like what's happening legally with the WRA or with contracts. And someone else might be like, okay, well, I'm really interested in like, nonprofits. I'm just making this stuff up right now, but, and so then in Heartland or local businesses in Heartland or the Chamber of Commerce in Heartland. And so we kind of assigned like an area ambassador / subject matter expert. And, I haven't been as successful at keeping it consistent, but I'd love for them to like come back to the team with like recaps of this is what I know, this is what I'm learning, this is what I'm going on, this is going on. So then it's not just that the team is always building into the agents are in turn making the team better by giving back to the team. So it goes both ways. So I'm curious if anyone else has done anything like that.
We're trying to implement that too with our team meetings, like taking turns hosting, or leading the meetings. And with that in mind, that they would perhaps share something, you know, like if someone really loves scripts, or someone's really great at overcoming this objection or the other, that through the course of, well, when we get back to hopefully in person or whatever, that a different team member would be invested in the content and have to identify something to share.
Okay. And you're talking about, are those your weekly meetings then?
Yeah. We're kind of all over it. We stopped weekly meetings for a while and just kind of shared our agenda, but we've heard a lot of agents wanting to be back together and wanting to meet and discuss and talk. So we're in the process of transitioning back, but trying to get more creative with how is that, you know, we want our agents to be excited about the meeting. So not just kind of like sharing a bunch of stats, but like value add like that. And maybe even bringing in like different trades or different verticals in real estate that could help train our agents too. Like bring in a mortgage guy, bring in an inspector, bring in somebody, you know, all of them are very well experienced, but you never know. Could just be trends or what they're seeing.
Okay. And
we're trying to do the same thing. Like, frankly, I'm sick of talking at the meetings. I know Emily and Kevin are sick of talking at the meetings. The agents are sick of hearing us at the meetings. So like trying to engage them more and give them that like sense of ownership and like coming to the meeting with something prepared to talk about. So if anyone has any ideas, I actually have a meeting on the books with Emily and Kevin next week to go through the topics to assign to the agents for the next, you know, quarter, I don't know, a couple months of meetings. I would love the recommendations because we did try to do a brainstorming session during the meeting, and that went about as well as you can expect that it went.
Oh,
Yeah, I found, well, this kind of goes hand in hand with what you're saying and with training and education in general. If I ask the agents to do something, they will look at me like I'm speaking a foreign language. And if Maureen asks them to do something, they will do it in 5 minutes. So to be honest, the only way I can get our people to do trainings, unless they really want to go to something individually, is for our team lead to tell them to do it. Or even like during team weekly meetings, I will talk and they'll just stare at me, and Maureen will talk and they'll like talk back to her. It's hilarious. But granted, half the people on our team I'm related to, so that also might go hand in hand with it. But yeah, if you guys have any suggestions on how to convince people to go to trainings.
Well, one of the things that we're trying, so in our education goals would be like once a month, so they can do their individual education. So go and do whatever it is. And then maybe it is a matter of like asking them to tell you, like at the end of so at the end of this month, they look at, and again, they can look anywhere. It can be the our KW Market Center calendar. It can be KW Connect. It can be a podcast. It could be a blog. It doesn't really matter what it is. It could be something with the WRA. It could be something that's happening in your community, you know, whatever it is, but then have them identify that and then just say, okay, on Tuesday's meeting, we'd like you to share that information. But then the other thing that we have tried to implement is once a month, we do a group training education. So if it's on KW Connect, let's just say, for example, we all are doing it at the same time. We're doing it together as a team, even if it's on a Zoom or something like that. And then afterwards, incorporate like a recap. What were your key learnings from that training?
That's a good idea, because then there's the accountability of, it's very obvious who wasn't on the training because they're not talking.
Right, right. Yeah,
That's
so
good.
it's, yeah, that's good. But I agree with you. I'm just tired of talking too. I'm like, you know, well, I just feel like that it's, well, like what we're doing now. I mean, it's just so much more valuable to have conversations than it is to feel like you're just telling people. And you want them to feel a level of ownership of things. And it may not be their area of expertise, or that's not where they're proficient at. But I mean, it's like anything, getting comfortable, sharing information back, learning, you know, participating in the meeting it's not like my meeting, it's our meeting, you know, and I almost want to set it up like, so it's like agents talk, you know, it's like agents, you know, this is marketing, you know, each of those categories broken down on the agenda, and then it's like agents, and they can, you know, maybe you get them warmed up by talking about like what's coming, buyer, seller, you know, things that needs them. It's like, and then once they're kind of used to talking, then have them talk about something that is, informational. And that's kind of that atomic habits thing too. It's like, it talks about if you want to do something that's hard, you do something easy first. So you want to, it's a hard habit. You want to create the habit, but it's not something you're comfortable doing. So you do something before that, and then that becomes like the next thing that you do. So it's like that habit stacking. So it's like an obstacle to overcome. It's like, okay, we need you to talk about this. So once you talk about this, then we can talk about your buyer and seller needs or something. I don't know.
For those of you that are doing a lot of Zoom meetings, how are you getting your agents to actually pay attention and interact? Because I found that there was a few months that we were requiring in-person attendance, and that is when people are obviously the most engaged. But I have found that if we do Zoom meetings, that half the people are just absolutely not paying attention.
Do you require their cameras on? Yeah.
That's
We
true.
can charge it.
In Gary Keller Masterminds, if your cameras are not on, he cuts you from the call. Like
Really?
Yep. So there's some, I think some of it is making good use of the technology, and I'm definitely guilty of this. Like, I don't know how to do small breakout rooms very easily. People are much more likely to talk in a small group than they are in a bigger group. So anytime you can break down a small group and then get together and do shares, you tend to get more engagement. But I think part of what, kind of set your standard, and if you're not living up to the standard, you're not a part of it. And you can come back. I mean, you can log back in, keep your camera on and go, right? So it's some of those like helping them engage in ways that you raise the bar, right?
Well, and I think also, to a little bit of what we've been talking about, but just saying to the agents exactly what we're saying to each other. Like, I want to have more fruitful meetings. I don't want to be the one talking all the time. This is our team. We're only as good as everyone's contribution to the team. And that's not just in a volume. That's not just in a production number. Like, how can we structure our team meetings so that everyone is participating? Everyone feels like they're a part of it, that we're making decisions collectively, that kind of thing. So maybe just going back to them and being super honest and saying, like, this is kind of falling flat. I don't think that you guys are really paying attention. I don't want to force you to be on a meeting that you don't find to be of value. How can we structure this so that you want to come to the meeting? So that is it the amount of time? Is it what's on the agenda? What can we do to change the dynamic of the team meetings? Because we don't want to just have meetings just for meeting's sake, because otherwise you could just send out the agenda and just read it. You know what I mean? And that's really not being a part of a team, right? Even if it's a Zoom call versus an in-person. Because we stopped meeting too, whoever said that, like last year, things were just so busy and we did stop meeting on a regular basis, and, people started to feel disconnected. So we recommitted to meeting as a team, and, we do like when the people are present in the room, but we do make accommodations. We ask people to time block for those meeting times, but if they can't and they have to be on the call or on a Zoom, we always have that as an option. But they know that we'd prefer for everyone who can be together are together, but we don't necessarily fault them if they have to be on a Zoom call. So, and I'm always on a Zoom call because I live in Ohio, so so I do this remotely anyway. I'm in Wisconsin right now. I come every 4 to 6 weeks, but I run the team from Ohio for the most part, and I'm here for like a week or so every month and a half. So I'm used to doing, that's kind of the dynamic of our team. So, but everyone else we'd like to have in person. Like, I'm here right now by myself. No one is here. Our office.
Down the hall, in the same office building, but. Okay.
So anyway, okay. Well, I think we're overtime. I'm sorry.
We've got go ahead.
The only other thing that I had, and we can even save this for another time, so that to be respectful of everyone's time. That was just the last topic about expenses. What does the team pay for? What does the agent pay for? Marketing, training, education, those kinds of things.
It seems like a pretty big topic to me,
Yeah.
if you wanted to save it for the next one. What do you guys think about that?
That works.
Yep.
Works.
Awesome.
Okay, well, perfect. Well, thank you so much, guys, I wasn't sure who would all be here, and I'm glad that you guys were all here. Actually, it's a little bit of a smaller group. Sometimes I feel like that's actually easier to have conversations, because when there's so many people, people tend to quiet down. They're like, I'm gonna let someone else speak and I'm not gonna say something. So I appreciate you showing up today and participating and sharing. So thank you.
And thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah.
for
Thank you for your gorgeous slides.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we can do a mastermind on that.
Canva. I love Canva. Yeah. Thank you. I could show you that. It's easy.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Have a good Friday.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.
Take care. Okay. Bye.